What if one day, time itself bent, and two of the greatest minds in human history sat face to face beneath the same silent sky? What if Buddha, the awakened one who transcended the illusion of the self, and Carl Jung, the psychologist who ventured into the labyrinth of the human soul, met in a conversation that bridges east and west, spirit and psyche, light and shadow? What would they say to each other? And perhaps more importantly, what could we learn from them about ourselves? The screen fades from darkness. A faint hum of wind, a quiet melody of ancient bells. Two figures, one robed in simplicity, the other in a scholar's coat, face each other across time. Their eyes reflect the same mystery. Who are we when there is no I left to cling to? This question, this impossible, burning question, has haunted humanity since the dawn of thought. Buddha answered it through silence and surrender. Jung answered it through reflection and understanding. And yet, both sought the same thing: to pierce the veil of illusion and see reality as it truly is. When I first encountered their teachings, I thought I understood what self meant. The self, my dreams, my goals, my identity. It felt solid, important, unshakable. But as I grew older, I began to sense that this self might be just a fragile image, a story I keep telling myself to feel safe. Perhaps the one I call me is not the center of life, but the shadow that hides the truth. Jung called this structure the ego, the conscious identity that tries to control the world. It's the mask we wear, the surface we show. But beneath it lies the unconscious, a vast ocean of forgotten fears, unhealed wounds, and timeless symbols. Jung believed that to become whole, we must descend into that ocean, face the darkness, and integrate what we find there. In his words, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Buddha, on the other hand, spoke of Anatta, the doctrine of no self. To him, the self was not something to be understood or healed, but something to be seen through and released. He saw the self as a mirage born from desire, attachment, and ignorance. When one realizes that there is no permanent I, suffering dissolves. Freedom begins where the illusion ends. At first glance, these two visions seem to oppose each other. Jung says, know yourself. Buddha says, let go of yourself. But what if both are describing the same mountain, only from different sides? Perhaps we must first understand the self before we can transcend it. Perhaps one cannot dissolve what one does not yet see. When I think of this meeting, Jung sitting across from Buddha, I imagine not a debate, but a deep stillness. Two souls, both explorers of the mind, both seeking to awaken from illusion. The psychologist who mapped the shadows of the West, and the sage who dissolved the boundaries of the East. Their eyes would meet in quiet recognition, not as teacher and student, but as mirrors reflecting the same truth. And in that moment, maybe they would both smile, because they'd realize that the journey of the human spirit is not about choosing between the self and no self, but about awakening to the dance between them. The self is the bridge between form and emptiness, between knowing and being known. It is the flame that burns until only light remains. So, as we begin this journey into their dialogue between ego and emptiness, between Carl Jung and Buddha, let us pause and ask ourselves, are we the ones watching the mind, or are we the dream being watched? Perhaps in that question lies the beginning of awakening. Carl Jung once said, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. To him, the greatest battle of the human spirit was not fought in the world outside, but in the hidden chambers of the soul. The battlefield was within. Jung spent his life exploring this inner terrain, a realm of symbols, myths, and unconscious patterns that shape every thought, every dream, every act we perform. He believed that the human psyche is not a straight line, but a vast labyrinth filled with rooms we have never entered, faces we have never met, and truths we have never dared to face. At the surface lies what we call the ego, our conscious identity. It's the I that says, I am this, I am that. It's the social mask that helps us navigate the world. But beneath that mask lies something Jung called the shadow, the dark twin of the self. The shadow is not evil. It's everything we reject, deny, or repress. Our anger, our jealousy, our vulnerability, even our forgotten talents, our wildness, our power. Every time we say, "That's not me," the shadow grows stronger, whispering from the corners of the unconscious. And sooner or later, it will find a way to manifest through our fears, our obsessions, or even our failures. Jung's insight was revolutionary. He dared to say that the path to wholeness begins not in light, but in darkness. To truly become ourselves, we must descend to meet what we have avoided, to listen to what we have silenced. This is what he called individuation, the lifelong process of integrating every part of who we are, light and shadow alike, until we become whole. I remember the first time I read his writings, and it struck me deeply. I realized how much of my life was spent avoiding pain, pretending to be only good, only strong, only in control. But as Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And he was right, because the truth is frightening. When you look into the shadow, it looks back. Jung himself faced this truth. In what he called his confrontation with the unconscious, he experienced visions, dreams, and inner dialogues that shook his sanity. He spoke with figures that emerged from the depths of his psyche archetypes, the timeless patterns of the collective unconscious. He called this process active imagination. It was not madness, it was the soul trying to speak in symbols, to reconcile the fragments of the self. We see this same process mirrored in all of us today. When we are angry without reason, addicted without control, or anxious without cause, it is often the shadow calling for recognition. When we judge others harshly, we are often condemning what we secretly fear in ourselves. To face the shadow, then, is to take responsibility for the darkness we project onto the world. In therapy, Jung's approach was not to cure people of their pain, but to teach them how to make meaning of it. He said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because to accept oneself is to hold the paradox to be both sinner and saint, weak and strong, broken and divine. It's to realize that wholeness does not mean perfection, it means integration." Imagine Jung sitting across a patient, silent, listening not just to words but to the soul behind them. He saw in every person the same struggle, the conflict between who we are and who we pretend to be, between our masks and our truth, and he knew that unless we reconcile the two, we will remain divided forever. Today, we live in an age of constant self-presentation, where everyone must appear confident, happy, enlightened. But behind the smiles, the filters, the affirmations, many of us are still at war with our inner world. We chase positivity while suppressing pain. We speak of manifestation while denying our grief. And the shadow waits patiently for us to remember it. But here lies the paradox. Within the shadow lies our greatest light. It is the soil in which compassion, authenticity, and wisdom grow. Only by embracing our darkness can we truly see the light that was there all along. So Jung's journey was not one of despair, but of courage. He showed us that facing our demons does not destroy us, it transforms us. And the person who emerges from that inner descent is not the same one who entered. He or she has seen the face of both God and the devil within, and has learned to love them both. As we leave this chapter of Jung's exploration, one truth becomes clear. Before we can transcend the self, we must first know it. Before we can dissolve the ego, we must first confront its shadow. For in the darkness of the unconscious, the seed of awakening is waiting quietly, patiently, for those brave enough to descend and find it. If Jung sought to understand the self, Buddha sought to dissolve it. His journey began not with questions of psychology, but with the raw, burning reality of human suffering. He saw sickness, aging, death, the inevitable conditions of existence, and he asked, "Is there a way beyond pain?" That question led him not into the mind's labyrinth, but into silence, into awakening. Buddha's path is one of radical simplicity. He did not search for meaning in the unconscious or in symbols. He searched for liberation in direct experience. He taught that everything we cling to, our thoughts, our desires, our identities, is impermanent. And because we cling to what cannot stay, we suffer. This clinging, this craving, is born from a fundamental illusion, the belief in a solid, separate I. It is a seven in many selaminas when they happen. In the Nave's Emansive Stamer. In the doctrine of Anatta no self, Buddha revealed a truth that shattered every human certainty. He said, "There is no permanent self within you. What you call I is a bundle of conditions, sensations, feelings, perceptions, memories, all arising and vanishing moment by moment, like waves on the ocean. You are not the wave. You are the ocean, vast, boundless, beyond identity." At first, this idea feels terrifying. If there is no me, who is living this life? Who is thinking these thoughts, loving these people, chasing these dreams? It feels like erasure, but the Buddha's realization was not nihilism. It was liberation. When the illusion of I drops away, what remains is not nothingness, but peace. Not emptiness, but fullness, the infinite awareness that has always been here, watching every rise and fall, untouched by time. Jung explored the depths of the psyche. Buddha dissolved the boundaries of the self. Yet their paths are not enemies, they are mirrors. Jung moved inward through the shadow to reach the soul. Buddha moved beyond the soul to reach the unconditioned. Both discovered that freedom begins when we stop identifying with the mask. Think of how we live today. We say my body, my thoughts, my feelings, my story. But what if none of these belong to us? The body changes. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fade. Even the story we call my life is a narrative stitched together by memory. And memory itself is impermanent. To awaken, then, is to see through this illusion and rest in the awareness that observes it all. In meditation, this realization becomes alive. As you sit, thoughts appear like clouds drifting through the sky. One moment you're angry, the next moment peaceful. One memory stirs, another fades. And if you keep watching, you begin to notice something extraordinary. That which is aware of all these changes never changes. That is not your mind. It is the clear sky of consciousness itself. Buddha called this state nirvana, not a place, not an achievement, but the extinguishing of illusion. The fire of desire, the storm of aversion, the fog of ignorance all dissolve when one sees clearly. And what remains is a stillness beyond words, a silence that is not empty but alive. It is the sound of reality when the I is gone. When I first studied this teaching, I resisted it. How could I live without identity, without purpose, without me? But over time, I realized the truth Buddha pointed to. The self is like a dream, character, vivid, emotional, believable, yet when we awaken, we see it was never real. Life continues, but we no longer suffer from clinging to it. This does not mean we stop feeling or caring. On the contrary, when the illusion of self fades, compassion flows naturally. Because the boundary between me and you dissolves, love becomes effortless. We no longer love as someone seeking something we love, as life itself expressing its own wholeness. So while Jung tells us to become who we truly are, Buddha whispers, see that there was never anyone to become. And in that paradox, something beautiful emerges, a harmony between form and formlessness, between knowing and being. The West teaches us to find ourselves. The East teaches us to lose ourselves. But perhaps the truth lies in the middle, to find the self, only to see through it. To play the game of life fully, yet never forget it is a game. Imagine again the scene under the Bodhi tree. Jung sits across from Buddha, the air thick with stillness. He says, "But if there is no self, how can one know anything at all?" Buddha smiles gently. When the knower disappears, knowing itself remains. Jung falls silent, and for a brief moment, both awaken to the same realization, that the light they sought was never outside nor inside, but always the very awareness that sees both. Perhaps that is what freedom truly means, not to destroy the self, but to awaken from it. to see that the dreamer and the dream are one. In the silence of an ancient temple, time bends. Carl Jung sits across from the Buddha. Between them, not words, but awareness. The kind that hums beneath every heartbeat. Master, I have spent my life mapping the human mind. I found within it an ocean of symbols, dreams, and shadows, the collective unconscious. But I still wonder, who is the dreamer? Buddha. The dreamer is the one who clings to the dream. When the mind awakens, both dream and dreamer dissolve into the same emptiness. Jung, thoughtful. And yet, without the dream, how would one awaken? Without the ego, how can one know the self? In Ledavli Repper Janner Downser, Buddha. The ego is the flame that burns itself. Let it burn, but do not mistake its heat for the sun. Their eyes meet, two worlds touching. Jung studies the Buddha, feeling both small and infinite. He whispers, "In the West, we heal by integrating the shadow, by embracing our darkness. But you teach to dissolve it. Are these not opposites?" Buddha smiles. Light and darkness are two ends of the same candle. When the candle melts, both disappear, only clarity remains. The wind outside grows louder, as if the universe itself exhales. This conversation, though imagined, feels more real than most truths. Jung's world is of meaning, symbols, and individuality, a sacred journey toward wholeness. The Buddha's world is of emptiness, release, and the end of craving. And yet, both speak of the same thing, the liberation of the soul from illusion. One through understanding, one through letting go. Jung. So, enlightenment, is it the death of the self? Buddha. It is the death of the illusion that there was ever a self to begin with. The scene fades into golden light. Jung closes his eyes, and for the first time, the voice in that silence, perhaps Jung understood what the Buddha meant all along, that the greatest dialogue is not between two minds, but between the self and the silence beyond it. The camera drifts through a landscape where temples meet libraries, monks meet analysts, east and west, converging not in opposition, but in reflection. Carl Jung and the Buddha both search for liberation, one through understanding the mind, the other through transcending it. They walk different paths toward the same summit. Jung believed the journey of life was a process of individuation, becoming whole by confronting our shadows, integrating the unconscious, and realizing the self within. For him, enlightenment was not about escaping humanity, but fulfilling it, embracing the totality of our being. The Buddha, on the other hand, taught the Noble Eightfold Path, not to strengthen the self, but to dissolve the illusion of self entirely. Liberation was not the completion of identity, but its extinction. Yet, look deeper. Both paths begin in the same place: suffering. Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The Buddha said, "Life is suffering, and the end of suffering lies in understanding." Both understood that pain is not punishment, it is the doorway. The difference lies in what we find beyond that door. For Jung, beyond pain lies integration, the reconciliation of our contradictions, a harmony of light and shadow. For the Buddha, beyond pain lies emptiness, a freedom from clinging, from the illusion that there ever was a me to suffer. I once tried to fix as myself to be perfect, to heal every flaw, to control every thought. But the more I tried, the more fragmented I became. Jung taught me to face my darkness. The Buddha taught me to release it. Together they showed me that healing is not conquering, it is surrendering. As the visuals shift, the face of a meditating monk dissolves into the silhouette of a human brain. The narrator continues. Psychology is the map. Enlightenment is the silence beyond the map. Jung and the Buddha, in their own ways, point toward the same horizon, the return to wholeness. Soft flute music fades in bridging intellect and stillness. The frame lingers on a single candle flame. When the flame realizes it was never separate from the fire, that is when it finally rests. The music shifts, electronic hums, city lights, the pulse of modern life. The serene temples fade into glowing screens, traffic, and endless noise. In our age, the ego has not dissolved, it has multiplied. Every screen reflects another self. Every scroll builds another illusion. Scanchi. We live in a time where the ego is constantly fed likes, followers, identity labels, and achievements. Jung would call this an inflation of the ego, a mind trapped in its own projections. The Buddha would call it attachment, a hunger that can never be satisfied. When the ego becomes too strong, it forgets the soul. Buddha. When desire grows without wisdom, it becomes suffering. In the modern world, both voices whisper warnings we refuse to hear. We chase validation, not understanding. We seek pleasure, not peace. We polish the mirror, but never look beyond our reflection. I used to think self-discovery meant finding my true self. In sucks, but now I see that every identity I claimed was just another mask, another defense against the fear of emptiness. We spend so much time trying to be someone that we forget how to just be. The screen now shows faces illuminated by phones, thousands of eyes, all searching for meaning in digital light. Narration continues. This is the modern crisis, not the lack of technology, but the lack of inner silence. We have conquered the external world but remain exiled from our inner one. The imagery transitions from busy streets to a single monk walking alone through a neon city. His steps are slow, his eyes calm. The Buddha would tell us to let go. Jung would tell us to integrate. Both, in truth, are asking us to remember what we have forgotten, that the center of life is not outside, but within. Voiceover. Almost a whisper. The modern self is drowning in mirrors. Perhaps the only way to save it is to stop looking for it. In the end, perhaps there was never a conflict between Jung and the Buddha, only two languages describing the same silence. For Jung, the journey ends in wholeness, the realization that every shadow, every wound, every dream is part of a greater self. For the Buddha, the journey ends in emptiness, the realization that there is no self at all, only the boundless flow of existence. But when you look closely, both truths touch. To be whole is to accept all things. To be empty is to cling to nothing. And in that still point where acceptance and release meet, there lies peace. The visuals shift. Jung's journal pages turn to dust. The Buddha's hand touches the earth. The narrator's voice softens. We do not need to choose between psychology and enlightenment, between understanding and surrender. They are two wings of the same bird, both carrying us toward freedom. I have come to believe that enlightenment is not escape, it is intimacy with everything. It is when the self stops fighting to exist and begins to simply witness. It is the quiet smile that remains when all illusions fall away. That bistu was a raldadactif. The camera rises, a calm lake reflecting the sky. A final whisper. Beyond self and no self, there is only awareness. And in that awareness, there is love. Beyond self and no self, there is only awareness. And in that awareness, there is love. If this journey between Jung and the Buddha stirred something in you, if it made you question, reflect, or feel a little more awake, then you are already walking the path. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, because together, we'll continue exploring the great dialogues between philosophy, psychology, and the soul.